it's 2:09. I'm sorry.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Welcome to Trail Talk. We might be a few minutes late, but you know what? It's better late than never, Chris.
Yes, I apologize.
No apologies necessary. We've been having a nice little chat while you guys were all anxiously awaiting our live. Not that people watch live.
Oh, they don't watch it live?
Some do. For those of you watching, I am not discounting your faithfulness. Thank you for watching. But you know, for those of you who are tuning in at a later time.
Well, I didn't realize it was live. I thought I was going to do a TikTok video.
Well,
I had that dance.
there's that opportunity as well. Yeah. Welcome to Trail Talk. This is our friend Chris Steele. You probably recognize Chris. He's been here a few times, and because he wears many hats, he's going to be talking with me today about something called Leadership Duncan, which is a fantastic community program. I had the just great opportunity to go through class 21, and class 27 is kicking off this week.
Yes.
Well, actually Tuesday night was
We
the
had a
mixer.
Tuesday night, yeah, and starting tomorrow afternoon, and we'll have an afternoon retreat and a morning on Saturday. So the program has kicked off. It is the 27th class. I guess it'll be my 13th class that I've been involved with since I've been at the chamber.
Because the chamber is
The chamber is
sponsor.
the program manager and the sponsor of the program. So it actually is a flagship program in our program of work, our business plan each year. Under the business development and economic development section. As you know, Edie, having taken the class, leadership is probably one of the most important building blocks in your community for economic development, whether that be through tourism, which is a great industry in our state that you're involved with, hospitality,
Exactly.
or aerospace, oil and gas. The aviation and aeronautics is number 2, and tourism is like number 3 in our state now.
Yeah.
So it's great that we're finally recognizing the value of that. But leadership is a very important pillar in any community. Leadership is not necessarily how everyone defines leadership differently, but often you learn that it's basically how to take scarce resources, particularly the most important resource, the human resource, and help them find the path that they need to go to flourish, to have a great quality of life. So this particular program looks at leadership, and sometimes you not necessarily lead people where they want to go, but maybe where they need to go for their community to have a great quality of life and a good economy that supports jobs. And so this leadership program through the years has, I think, done a good job of producing leaders. There was a period where we didn't, about 12-year period, there was a hiatus.
Right.
And,
Right.
if you looked at organizations, they were having difficulty getting board members. There wasn't as much activity in the community. Corporate downsizing had affected some of that. And so when the program was kicked off again with class 13 in 2008, it has really gone gangbusters. And you and Kevin and many others, since I've been in the chamber, over 250 people have gone through the program.
And you were class 13? Or you were
Actually, I was
12?
class 11.
11, yeah.
Yeah, I was way back.
We always talk about it at the mixer, and I always
Yeah.
try to make a point to try.
Yeah, that
remember
was back in the 93. So that was a while.
So that was right before the hiatus.
Yes.
And then, okay.
Yes.
And you were talking about diversity and everything in the program. One of my big takeaways was typically there's, 22 to 25 or 26 class members. That's a pretty
Now
good
we use,
size.
20 to 25.
Yeah.
We used to have around 30 to 35 applicants, and then you have to, unfortunately, get down to a manageable size. And
Right.
really, when you get above the 22 to 24 range, it becomes unmanageable.
It does, but so those are, 20 whatever individual personalities. And like you said, leadership, it doesn't mean that everyone in that class or that group is a stand up at the podium and, or walk into a room and line everyone up and just that kind of a leader. Leadership has many different, I'm going to use the word faces.
Yeah.
And so every personality, I believe, every personality has the potential to
Oh, absolutely.
be a leader. Or, I mean, we do that whole, their personality study or whatever you want to call it is,
Yeah, we
part
do
of it.
I mean, it is important to realize, even if you say sit down in an event with 8 people, chances are that none of you like the same types of food, you like the same types of movies. You'll probably find on the surface, there's really not much that you have in common. But if you look deeper and you get past the personality, and that's one reason we try to assist during the retreat of people to learn different types of personalities and how we have to embrace diversity, not only of ethnicity and color, but also of personality. We have to accept people for what they have that they bring to the table. Everyone brings value, and everyone in some way is a star.
Right.
And I look at every individual as a hero. And it's really our job, like at the chamber, or if you're a leader, to tell the hero's story. And not everyone knows how to tell the story. So as we negotiate and try to demonstrate different skill sets of leadership, we try to bring out those strengths that a lot of people might even view as a weakness personally. And once they learn their own personality and know thyself, then it allows them in dialogue and to getting to know and retreat. They do a lot of team building exercises that so they can quickly build a friendship and network and value one another, not for opinions or whatever we think is important, because we realize that what's really important is a human being.
Right.
That what is important in all of this is how we all work together to move our community forward so we can build a community that's strong for us, our children, our grandchildren, our family, our friends. And that's the great part about leadership. And leadership, Duncan, like you pointed out, I mean, the first session coming up is culture and quality of life, which Chisholm Trail Heritage Center plays a great role in that, because you actually host us during the day, and then we make different jaunts or little journeys through the community and come back to the Heritage Center. But it's also important for people to realize the commonality we share culturally here, even as diverse as our community is, that we're all from Duncan and we all need to love on each other and love on our community. And the culture and quality of life today, I mean, you have people that visit you from everywhere from Wisconsin to Germany. I mean, all of the lower 48, Alaska, Hawaii, and then when you get into Europe, and it's interesting how many people are so appreciative of the culture that you celebrate here at this facility, but yet how many people from our communities don't actually come here. So one of the other things about leaders is not only a self-awareness, but is awareness of their community. Because, the thing is Duncan shouldn't want to be Norman, and they shouldn't want to be Tulsa or Dallas. What Duncan should want is to be the best Duncan they could possibly be. So the other part about the Leadership Duncan program is they actually do a thing called a strategy shift, where you look at your community, and it's kind of like a asset-based community development, where you look at what your strengths are, you look at the assets you have in your community, and some of the things you may have never thought of as an asset may actually be an asset, that all working together, that we could come together if we had strong leadership to move us in a particular direction.
Right. And the camaraderie that is built in that class over the 9-month period, I never even really looked at them as, oh, you work here and you work here, you're from there. It was just, we were a part of that class. And that's how I still think about them. I mean, knowing someone who works at a certain place as a networking, potential, that might be, but all in all, we were just part of another cog in the wheel of Leadership Duncan. And it was just that's a really great,
but you build great friendships from that.
Absolutely.
And the network you created, have you found an opportunity since you graduated to reach out to that former network and maybe get some enlightenment on an issue you're working on or something? Personally and professionally, do you feel like that it assisted you since you took the class?
Oh, 100%. And I had lived here for probably almost 30 years before I was in Leadership Duncan. And I had heard about that class, but because I mean, I had just started working here part-time. I had been a stay-home mom who just volunteered for most of those years. But I never saw that as me being a potential leader, but volunteerism is something that, and like board membership and those kinds of things, that's a big part
It's a
of
very important piece.
of that, and I never viewed it that way.
Well, and see, with your expertise, you later, for the last several years, have been our day chair with Gina Fleischer for social services.
Right,
And you
right.
took social services day because of what you learned and being in the community and your volunteers experience.
Mhm.
Whereas that day had always been rather a heavy day because it talks about people that are vulnerable or disenfranchised or difficulty, everything from homeless people to abused, or you name it, all kinds of areas of where assistance would be giving, but you ended up turning it into a day that lifts you up in spirit because you see how many people are volunteering, partnering with those organizations, whether it be Department of Human Services or Safe Center or, you know, Christian Concern, it doesn't
Right,
matter. You see the
right.
partnerships, you see how volunteerism is really how we fill in the gap
Mhm.
that exists in our nation, you know, that particular day. So a lot of leaders don't realize that we have 16.7% poverty rate in Stevens County, or over 33% of your children are in poverty.
Right, exactly.
But rather than being depressed about it, I always noticed after your day, the classes wanted to engage and wanted to do something to assist an organization or lay out some groundwork for something that might benefit others. So, and that too is what leadership is about.
Right, exactly. And so that's why I love talking about leadership, Duncan, because there is a fit for everyone, everyone in the community.
We encourage, you know, businesses. I mean, it's one of, if you look at the whole program of Leadership Duncan, what the program does for those individuals that are taking your program, it's really a microcosm of what the Chamber of Commerce tries to do as being the voice of business and the voice of the community. The Chamber is really a trade association of businesses that desire to see the community move forward to do better for themselves, their family, their friends, and the whole community. And so if you look at all the different areas of leadership, whether it's starting with culture and quality of life and social services like you do, local, state, and you know, county government, education, healthcare, or all of the systems that come into play, economic development, that's how the Chamber tries to do it. The way that you got connected to your class, the Chamber's desire is to assist anyone that needs to be connected and assisted and learn about the community, learn about the opportunities of our community. You know, that's really what we try to do. So in a way, when you go through Leadership Duncan, everything that is you see in that is in some way what the Chamber tries to assist the community in moving forward.
And I don't know if people think about Leadership Duncan like this. It's not like a leadership training.
No,
it's
not really. We
more,
have a skill set.
We do, right, but it's more educational to me, informative. Because I mean, you just literally are introduced to so much information on each of those days. One day a month. I want to add, it's a 1 day a month class, but it's I just feel like that's the big thing.
We're giving the information you need, hopefully, to engage in the community, but also, you know, there are skill sets each day. Always, you know, for example, the culture and quality of the paid life that Kristen Arrington puts together has 33 speakers. So time management is considered the skill set for that day.
Right.
Now, La Rogo always jokes on when you go to the state capitol, flexibility is the skill set and patience.
True.
And so, you know, but the educational side, I think leaders can only make the decisions that they can make if they have the best information possible.
Right.
And it's kind of like education. Education is really not about opening up your head and pouring a lot of information or data in it. It's about giving you the capacity to learn for yourself, to be a lifelong learner. So the hope is in taking this program that by being educated in all these areas and learning some skill sets, whether it be running a meeting or being flexible, that you can take that knowledge and be very productive, both personally and professionally.
Right. And, you know, even like the social services, just that day to me is kind of a reality check kind of day, where people who, sometimes life just has you removed from people who are in a lot of need. Your paths don't cross.
Right.
And so kind of seeing the reality of, wow, why would we have all of these organizations and agencies who serve our community if we didn't have that large population who needed serving? And so, for the class to kind of take that in, and I don't think a single time that since I've been the chair, that someone hasn't said, I needed to know that my mom or my neighbor, or, there's a tangible, immediate takeaway of, wow, I didn't realize that service was there. And, so it's just little things like that too, that just really.
And some of the students, leadership, Duncan, when they went through your session, I know that you and Gina put together a portfolio of information for them. He took that back to his job. He worked at the sheriff's department, still does, and put together his own resource directory because of the fact that there's a lot of need for people that are having difficulties that he deals with, with the sheriff's department. And this allowed him the knowledge he needed to hopefully assist some of the individuals to where they wouldn't be revisiting him.
Right.
So,
right. And I really learned a lot on the state, local, and county government days. Those were very enlightening.
Yeah.
Of course, my class was the fall of 2016. So that was right before the big presidential election.
Yeah, big presidential.
Yeah, and so it was great, crazy debate stuff happening during that class, and just, lots of candidates and lots of information. It was, a very exciting time. But the day chairs are always, no matter what their topic is, it's always really interesting to the speakers and the information that they have to share with us, or with with each class.
Well, I think the leaders over the last 10 years that have come out of leadership, Duncan, have had a great effect of embracing the community in a different way. And, the last 6 years, we had a change in management at the city of Duncan. And there's always changes of leadership, but the last 6 years with that leadership and with what you see with some of the leaders from leadership, Duncan, you see the community actually moving in directions that we probably needed to go sooner. And we're going into those directions. I remember when I first took over the chamber job some time ago, they were having trouble still getting board of directors and people to serve in volunteer positions. And then about the time that election year, there was a guy here in town that took over a nonprofit. He said to me, man, I wish I could find some other people to serve on my board besides leadership Duncan graduates. So I guess the point being is that the other beauty of leadership Duncan is what it does not do is produce leaders that are subject to groupthink. And so as they come out of the program, they all have defined themselves differently in the community different because their eyes have been opened to many things, as you pointed out. So I've also noticed the leadership out of that program. It's not like you just get a bunch of people together that have the same thing. And so you become blinded or myopic to what's coming up and you need to do. In fact, I've noticed the opposite, that there's been very positive efforts in all sectors from graduates of leadership, Duncan, and the many nonprofits. It's hard to believe, we have over 150 nonprofits in Stevens County. About 80 of them are active, and in any of those, you look at, there's someone from leadership Duncan there. And it's valuable to the nonprofit sector because it provides direction and educational expertise on how those meetings should be run. And then in business as well, we send out to about 50 employers letters inviting them each year to send some of the leadership. And most generally, I have had very few businesses. In fact, I can't really think of any that have not basically become advocates for the program. And we have some that continuously always are sending, we're thankful Duncan Regional Hospital and Halliburton
Right.
and the Tilly Group and
Mhm.
many organizations, employers and small businesses. That send. WW Builders.
They've been really good supporters.
And, many of the nonprofits,
Right.
particularly, they find it valuable if they have a executive director that hasn't taken the program.
Mhm.
It allows them to make friendships and networks and connects in the community much
Mhm.
faster.
The city of Duncan.
Yes.
too.
City of Duncan has been a great supporter. In fact,
Mhm.
if you look at the amount of day chairs that we have,
True.
but they have valuable expertise. I mean, if you look
Yeah,
at
exactly.
any one of those areas, particularly when you're looking at state and local government and many of the other areas, they're very important in their knowledge base to help you with those programs. Because if you're going to give good information to your participants in the program, you make sure you have the best day chairs that you can. So
Right.
the city's been a great supporter.
And another aspect of leadership, Duncan, that I think would be important is that, years of experience or age don't really play into the class members. There's,
No, that,
I mean, they let me in, I was pretty old whenever I
well,
took leadership, Duncan.
I've seen age diversity of one class we had. I can remember a member had her 65th birthday during the class, but the youngest member that year was 22.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, I mean, that was very diverse, but, intergenerational communication is a problem oftentimes rather than an asset. And so anytime you can get generational conversations going on to where, have an appreciation for the past, but you live in the moment to where you can do the best you can, but you're also aspiring to move yourself forward in the future. And what better way if you have a lot of generations, diversity of age, color, ethnicity, and they're all working together for a common goal. And then that allows you to, I used to, if you look at years and back, when you see a society that even just whether they trade with one another or anything else, anytime you can establish a relationship, as Sandy Stewart tells me, and I work at the chamber, she always said relationships give you access. And
Those
so,
are wise words.
yeah, and so that's what we're hoping for the community that, leadership is a pillar of economic development. It's a pillar of just most everything in your societal structure within a community. So you've got to have people to make those kinds of decisions for others, but also encourage other people to participate in the process. And so we're hopeful that the leadership program is building that kind of legacy.
Right. And it's not limited to just Duncan.
No, we have this past year, Marlow, Comanche,
Mhm.
surrounding it. We like to really
There's a
broaden
lady
it to
from
Stevens
Belmont.
County. Yeah.
This year, I just
Yeah.
met her the other night. So I love that. I remember in my class, there was, a young woman from, I seem like there were several
Yes.
younger ones in my class, but one was from Lawton and one, was from Warrika,
Mhm.
I believe. And so,
Well, and the whole idea, if you think about Duncan and Stevens County, it's really it's a retail and cultural hub for a much broader population. There's 22,300 people in Duncan. There's 45,000 people in Stevens County. But if you push out your trade area, you push into several counties. I mean,
right.
you actually, if you live in East Lawton, you can drive here faster than you can probably get over to 82nd Street.
True. That's true.
And,
Yeah.
and so it always fascinates me, even with Goodyear being built in Lawton, that there are more people that drive from Lawton to work in Duncan than the other way around.
Yeah.
And then we have people coming from Jefferson County and, really south of Chickasha and then from I-35 over and then from Eureka up
Mhm.
that come into the community in some point, either some of them daily, some weekly, some monthly for different types of things. So we certainly want to look at the assets we have because, employers draw their employees from that pool, churches, nonprofits. So we don't want to exclude anyone that could benefit from the program from the area because we all kind of contributing.
Right, right. And I mean, I just love all of those integrations, I guess, that
Mhm.
happen, because it is just, age, experience, community, just, all kinds of things really play into just making it really a successful
And we
program.
encourage people to apply, even businesses. The tuition is still the same as it was when I took it years ago. It's $300. But for many, $300 just as well be $300,000.
Right,
And so we try to find others that will, if they apply and they tell us they need, and quietly we'll try to find someone to pay that cost.
mhm,
So they still have the benefit of the program. Because how many entrepreneurs and how many people that have made positive changes in the nonprofit world, or others at one point or another spent time sleeping in their car.
right,
So
right, sure.
we try to also embrace that too.
Mhm.
So it's all about moving our whole community forward, and we don't really want to leave anyone out. And instead of, we don't want to just invite people to the table. We kind of want to drag the table to them. So.
Right. And one other thing that every class does is they choose a project.
Yes.
And
Yes.
let's kind of talk about that, because I think that's one of the, I don't know, one of the best outcomes. And it's always so interesting to see what that class project becomes based on the personality of the class. Every class kind of develops into one personality, not one person's, but like they just.
Oh, and they pick some fantastic projects.
Oh,
whether
they
it be
do.
Raising funds for the youth center, or renovating, Kitty Land Park, putting the fence around Kitty Land, or or the walking trail and the fence over on the other way of Memorial Park, or
With the benches.
the benches within a lot of those trails, or
Mhm.
helping out nonprofits like the Safe Center or Douglas Eastside
That
Center.
was
The
right.
class year before last did an extraordinary job of outreach there for the Duncan, the community center
Mhm.
there, and the Douglas Eastside Senior Citizen Center, and others, having advocacy there. So they make a positive change in so many ways. And then some of the projects are longer term. I always think of Lois Dawn Jones, who's the public information officer of the city. Her class actually began the process of looking at a heritage trail or a trail system, and laid that out. And they basically, whenever became part of the comprehensive plan and was reinitiated about 11 years ago, they were participants in that. And so now if you go out, you see the beginnings in different places of the 5K
Right.
asset, the trails that you see in Memorial Park, and as they begin to work across the community. So that was kind of long-term. Some are short-term, like let's raise money and paint the youth shelter at one time, and also
Right.
raise money to build the facility that was built on Fifth. Last year's class, though, I think probably it was an intriguing process to watch. Then at the retreat, they each year do what's called a strategy shift, where it's a strategic planning for the community, where you look at the community and you see what its strengths are, and also what assets it has and the problems that it has. And then can you take these assets and in some way help solve this problem, or what do you need to do? And so they basically looked at an organization called Community Heart and Soul, which is actually a community-wide strategy planning session, putting together a plan for the city that's been great success in other communities, because it literally brings everyone, regardless of the walk of life they come from, socioeconomic status. They may feel they have nothing to offer, but as we talked earlier, everyone has something to offer.
Right.
Everyone has a talent or a skill. So they make sure everyone feels welcome, and they come together and decide on projects, whether it be bifurcated by neighborhood or area, or what's the vision for the community? What do you love about Duncan?
Mhm.
Your heart and soul. What brought you to Duncan? What's your heart for Duncan? What would you like to see happen to the Duncan? How do we accomplish that? And instead of just putting it in a binder and put it on the shelf to collect dust. It actually has, will have a program coordinator and coach. And so as projects are put together, if you think of the MAPS program in Oklahoma City, for example, the way that plan was laid out, smaller communities use community heart and soul like ours to tackle problems, everything from some that we've discussed today to economic development to, what does the community really want? It's, psychometrics.
Right, Alan Gates is gonna be on Trail
Oh,
Talk in a
that'd be
couple
great.
of weeks and,
Yeah.
and really, probably talk about maybe how
That's
how
great.
they went from, that strategy shift to,
Right. It is.
and so I'm pretty excited to, hear.
Well, psychometrics are really important, also in any planning process. Like, there's no need, you guys do a wonderful job with the famous Garris Gallery of Western Art with your two interactive museums of giving people really what they would like. And you have people traveling from all over the world. Psychometrics are really important for a community, because if you put something in a community and do something in a community that nobody really wants, no one really buys into, it would be kind of like, no different. You do retail development, you try to bring something into the community that would enhance the retail we have, but also that would be supported, things that people want to do, want to have, not something, what is that? So
Right.
there's a certain thing about people become more vested quickly if they see something being done that they, in the back of their mind or consciously, they want it done anyway. But to identify those as a community is so important. And I think that's what's really going to be great about the park. So
Yeah, I am very excited to kind of see how all that works. So that's going to be a great thing, a really great thing.
yeah, so I'll be watching Alan.
Yeah.
When he comes on.
Yeah, maybe you'll be live. You can watch him live.
Watch him live. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll do
You
that.
could even zoom in and like ask him questions. And
Oh, I
stuff.
don't know. I've always been scared on these things. It'll pop up, say, share your screen. I'm always
Oh,
scared.
we can share your screen. Oh, look, there's Chris.
Okay.
That's funny. So, if you were going to, tell someone, here are 3 reasons why you should consider applying for leadership, Duncan, what would you tell them?
Well, I always ask people if they are lifelong learners, if they have a desire personally and professionally to gain skills and knowledge that will help them increase the quality of life for themselves, their family, the company they work for, and the community that they live in. So, by having them name 3 things, I haven't really thought of that way. That's actually a good way to think of it, identifying 3 things. But I think they build value for themselves, see themselves differently, and I think by having an increased self-awareness, a lot of times I've seen skill sets develop from individuals that go through the program that didn't even know that they had them. I've seen people come in that hated politics that end up running for city council. I've seen people that didn't think that they had what it took to become an entrepreneur and became very successful. I've seen people come into it that were very quiet, didn't think they had the ability to do public speaking, or aspired for a different type of career path, but really didn't see themselves being able to do that. But it helps you build internal strength and fortitude in a way that makes you capable of things you probably didn't even realize that you were capable of.
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I did not see myself as a community leader. I saw myself as a mom who did things in the school or church or community that, that was
And look
just
at you now.
part of it. And I never.
Isn't that fantastic?
It is. It really is.
So it's like an epiphany. I really always tell people, if you want to experience an epiphany in life, take the leadership program.
Yeah.
The value that you'll gain. I think I don't ever say to anybody, you're not going to use this, because you are.
Yes,
Yeah, there's-
100%.
I think each day that we have a session, that second Tuesday of the month, most generally, I look around the room and I see people experiencing something in their own way. And then when you hear them talk about whether they're reporting out on something or talking to one another, or even at a break, talking with one another, how engaged they are and how excited they are. And, you know, sometimes finding joy in life can be difficult because we close ourselves up into a box. And I think leadership, Duncan, allows you to not just think outside of the box, just tear the box all to pieces and just forget
Jump
about
out of
the
that
box.
box. Just jump out of
So,
it.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the part, the value. In fact, the year before that I came to the chamber, there was one person that was unhappy with their leadership experience. And, you know, kind of talked to them about that. So just made sure that never happened. And I've not had anyone this will be my 13th class. I've not had anyone come to me and say that Chris, you lied to me. This is horrible.
Right,
Most
yeah.
always, you know, it's very complimentary to the program, very positive. And I think by seeing them engaged in the community and continuing to be engaged with their group, I think of my own leadership experience. We didn't really then do projects in the sense of what they do now. What we did was we signed a commitment form. And so if you look at some of my classmates like Craig Barnes or Gary Criswell, like Greg Criswell said, well, I'm going to go run for city council. Phil Leonard said, I'm going to go run for mayor. Chris Steele and Craig Barnes said, well, we're going to run for school board. And then others said, we're going to serve on this nonprofit and these types of things. And then they went out and did those things. And, you know, Phil Leonard became mayor, and Gary Criswell did sit on the city council, and I sat on the school board.
Right.
And, but you could go down a list of the engagement. And then there were the entrepreneurs, like in my class, Todd Sander, he was a big entrepreneur that came up with all kinds of different types of chemical that he engineered and did really well, employed a lot of people. So, you know, and then there were the people who went back and built great nonprofits in the community.
Right.
And of course, that's been 30 years ago now.
Still,
So,
there's a certain amount of empowering.
yeah, I think that's a great word,
happens.
empowering.
Yeah.
And allowing you to step outside your comfort zone, because believe it or not, you know, when I took that class, I was the quiet, kind of introverted person that I think God gave me big ears and two of them because I really prefer listening to people. Didn't really like to speak or didn't, you know, I found it exhausting to be around large groups of people. So for me, it helped me break out of that shell and realize that the best thing I could do is quit worrying about all that and just try to help our community in some way.
Right.
You know,
Right.
for the quality of life we all desire.
Exactly. Well, and I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I'm
Super
glad you did too.
super glad of that, Chris. Well, you know, and one other thing I just kind of want to touch on, it may sound like a big commitment. It is a commitment.
Yes,
It's not huge, but it is.
it's a 1 day a month commitment.
And it's for 9 months. So, you know, and there were some people in my class who had events in their lives that they had to drop out. Sometimes people, you're allowed to miss 2 days, not recommended because that's huge. I can't even imagine missing 2, but,
Yeah, the only session that you can't miss is the retreat. And that's because with 22 people,
Yeah.
with the retreat, you know, you're trying to get people to learn one another,
yeah,
to actually become one another's confidants and be
Mhm.
comfortable with one another because you're going to share a 9-month journey with them.
right,
And so there's a certain amount of intimacy there.
exactly.
So that's the only session, but
It's
you know,
pretty core.
life does happen. And of
Yeah.
course, we continued even during the COVID-19
Mhm.
period to reinvent leadership, much like all of us have tried to be innovative.
Right,
Just like, you know, I believe your trail talk
exactly. Yeah.
was birthed because of that. So we learned a lot also from, you know, the pandemic, and we also try to be as flexible as we possibly can, because things happen, you know.
Mhm.
There are things, opportunities or losses that come along in one's life that, you know, you hate to lose them out of the program for an
Right.
absence. So we try to be as flexible as we can.
Yeah, so, just to let people know, it's not, do or die, but you are making a commitment, and honestly, I don't know, I mean, I never wanted to miss. I mean, if there was ever anything, I can remember it was AJ's senior year and there was a swimming competition and he was a really, really good swimmer. And so I really wanted to go. So I went to Leadership Duncan as long as I could that was one day. And then I tore off to go watch him swim a little bit. But that was how it was for me. I didn't want to miss. I wanted to learn
I'm
more.
glad
I
you had
wanted
such
to,
a positive experience.
yeah, it was
And
great.
You, with your social services day, you and Gina definitely give that experience to others. So I really thank you for being a part of the program after your graduation and serving. The big component of this is we have Chairman Bill Gossett,
Mhm.
who has been chairing the committee really for about 11 years. And Taryn Lyles is the assistant chairman for Leadership Duncan, and they together, kind of navigate the program with a steering committee
Right.
that consists of the day chairs such as yourself and Gina, to also class representatives. So, each year we have 2 representatives from the classes that are graduating, and then the 1 2 years removed will roll off. But they're the ones that actually plan the day
Mhm.
and actually sustain the program and keep the program going and in the community mind. So, they meet once a month as well.
Right.
So that's one thing I'm very thankful for the chamber being a kind of a volunteer member-based organization anyway. So I look at myself as kind of the program manager just to keep things heading in the right direction and making sure people have the resources they need to do what they love to do, which is helping develop leaders. So that steering committee and Bill Gossett is chairman and Taryn Lyles is vice chair. They do an extraordinary job of helping perpetuate that and give it sustainability. Every program always has the chance, like it did years ago, of becoming something people aren't interested in doing.
Right.
But this particular momentum that we had, it's one of those things you never take for granted, that you always are advocating for the program. So I appreciate you allowing me to come on today and talk to you about it, because that's the way the program sustains itself, is for more people to know the value of the program for the community.
Right. And even though this year's class is it's selected and they're rolling, I mean, tomorrow afternoon they kick off, they'll graduate in May. And if someone who's watching, if you're interested or someone who you think would like it, you can contact Chris and give them.
Oh, yes, I'm already building a list for next year, even though the
yeah.
application process doesn't start usually till March.
Mhm.
Whenever I have the opportunity and someone mentions it, I will take their name to make sure they have the opportunity when the program kicks off to be a part of it.
Right.
So it seemed like the day after we actually, selected the committee, first Monday in June usually selects the members of the new class. And you're recruiting one class while you're still trying to finish up the last several sessions of the previous class. And so I think I went into day 3 after with 3 names, for the next year that they'd learned about it, missed the application process. So they, one was so adamant, just wanted to make sure I would remind them that I said, well, go ahead and fill out this year's application, but I'll put it in.
Yeah, put it in there for next year. Yeah.
So
Don't put it off. If you're interested, like I said, or know someone you think would be interested, contact Chris at the chamber.
Yeah, you can call me anytime at the chamber or call me on my cell phone.
Okay.
It's like 467-5371. I think it's the most published cell phone.
And we'll put the chamber phone number in the comments.
Yeah,
section.
255-3644.
There you go. We'll add that to the
Or
comments.
you can send me an email at ccpres@duncanchamber.com.
Yeah, there you go.
So thank you, Edie.
Thank you very much, Chris. And you know what we say whenever it's time to sign off. Hey, we'll see you guys next week. Happy
Happy
trails.